What's going on, knuckleheads? This is the Fighters Rep, and this is our Patrick Day passes away, Shields' brother charged, and more boxing news discussion for today, October 16th, 2019. And we don't have the best news in the world for you guys today, knuckleheads. It looks like the most unfortunate thing happened that could have happened with Patrick Day. And that's basically the fact that Patrick Day passed away. Extremely unfortunate. If you don't know who Patrick Day is, we reported him on a couple days ago. He had a fight on the Alexander Usyk versus Chaz Witherspoon undercard on Saturday. He's a boxer from Freeport, New York. He had an extensive amateur career, a pretty successful one, a successful professional career. And unfortunately, very unfortunate, very sad news. We've lost this young man to the injuries that he sustained in that fight against Charles Conwell. It was a fight that, he was in on Saturday, and he got dropped basically 2 times earlier in the fight. He was getting beaten. He was doing some decent work in there, but he was getting beaten. And then in the 10th round, it looked to me like he got hit with a couple solid shots behind the ear, then a shot to the jaw. He fell down, his head snapped back, hit the canvas. He lost consciousness in the ring, I believe, from that knockout, although I thought I saw his arm raise up. But, basically he fell out of consciousness. He seized on the way to the hospital in the ambulance, according to the reports, and he just never made it back to consciousness. One of the most devastating, one of the most tragic things I think I've ever seen. One of the saddest things I've ever seen since I've been talking about boxing or reporting boxing on this channel. I feel so bad for Patrick Day, only 27 years old. I feel so horrible for his family. I really request that everybody do their best to put out some positive vibes for Patrick Day and his family. Whatever you can do, if you know them, if you're near them, give them a donation, tell them something, send them a message. Any kind of positivity at this time is extremely important. Real quick, I'm just going to take you guys through the career of Patrick Day, a rather successful and impressive career. In 2012, Patrick Day won the New York Golden Gloves tournament. He was an Olympic alternate. Now, this is going to be extremely fascinating, what you hear about Patrick Day as far as his Olympic alternate, or who he was an alternate to, but I'll let you guys know that after I read the rest of his amateur credentials. His record as an amateur was 75-5, so a fantastic record for a fantastic fighter. He won 2 national amateur championships. He was recognized at one point as the #1 boxer in the entire U.S. in the 152-pound division. And it was in 2012 that he served as a U.S. Olympic alternate to Errol Spence Jr. And isn't it just amazing and ironic that him and Errol Spence would go through, such incredibly life-changing and life-ending experiences within a week of each other. Really crazy stuff. You can't make this up. Errol Spence Jr. being ejected out of his vehicle. Incredibly fortunate for him that he survived it, despite the fact that his Ferrari flipped several times. His body was ejected, and he had nothing more than some lacerations on his face, not even a broken bone. Can you imagine that? Somebody driving their Ferrari and it flips several times, and they get ejected out of the vehicle, and they don't even break a bone. Nothing happened to Errol Spence. It's incredible. But Patrick Day doing what they love, boxing, something that he's been doing since he was a young man. 27 years old, a 75-5 amateur record. That's 80 fights. As a professional, he rose to the top 10 in the rankings in junior middleweight for the IBF and WBC. He even captured the WBC, the regional WBC Continental Americas title and the IBF Intercontinental title at 154 pounds. And, despite all those fights, a professional career and an amateur career ranging over 80 fights, probably close to 100 if you count his amateur career or his professional career, he loses his life from a punch. I mean, it's just unbelievably sad. This is absolutely tragic. As boxing is an experience and combat sports is an experience where, you share it with the people you love because you love it, and you got involved in combat because you really enjoy it and you love it very much. And, you develop a bond with other people that really love combat sports. You develop a bond with anyone who has the same interests as you. And that's a huge part of the reason why when fighters, they fight each other, they have a newfound respect for each other, even though they're beating the crap out of each other in the ring. Afterwards, they hug each other and they appreciate each other. And it's because, you develop a bond and a relationship with people that you go through things with and that you share experiences with. And Patrick Day, being such a successful fighter in the fight game, a guy who, put his life on the line to entertain us and to continue to bring up the sport of boxing, man. He's our brother in this sport, and he needs to be recognized as our brother, and we need to mourn him and appreciate everything he did, while at the same time appreciating his life and a fantastic career. Basically, when he died, let's say he died doing something that he really loved. We got to look for the silver lining. So, he died as a warrior, doing something that he loved, and he died in a fight against Charles Conwell, or actually the injuries that he suffered were in a fight against Charles Conwell, where he was fighting for the USBA super welterweight title. So, to the very end, to the bitter end, Patrick Day was doing what he loved, and we should use that as an inspiration, because how many of us can say we're doing something we love on a day-to-day basis? I think you use a life like his as motivation. Although it was cut short, an untimely death at only 27 years of age, you use a guy like that as motivation. And, let's show our respect, let's show our love for Patrick Day. And I ask that everybody at least, put out a tweet or, throw up a prayer or do something in honor of Patrick Day. Just, a really, really sad situation we have here in boxing. The fourth death in boxing because of a boxing match this year already. So definitely we're going to have to start thinking about things that we can implement, maybe safety measures, something that can be implemented to sort of prevent this kind of thing from happening over and over again. Big shout out to everybody in the chat room. Thank you so much for joining. If you like to talk about combat sports, especially boxing and MMA, and if you love to watch free kickboxing events brought to you by us here at Fighters Rep, please subscribe below. Subscribe below, like, share, comment, do everything that, fans of the fight game do. Also, feel free to donate in the super chat. The majority of the proceeds you guys donate to me are reinvested right back in to Fighters Rep Promotions to support young upcoming fighters, guys who put their lives on the line every day. It's so sad, like Patrick Day, who, definitely, it makes you think life is unfair, but who knows, maybe what's after this is better. Maybe, he was called home to a better place. God, I hope that's what it is, Big shout out to everybody in the chat. Thank you so much. Marco Martinez, Vladimir Kraft, Ginger Giant. Before I switch over to the next topic, real quick, I do want to answer some of your, or at least acknowledge some of your messages here. Marco Martinez is saying Day's opponent must feel like crap. I hope he doesn't blame himself. One real positive thing that I got out of this whole situation with regards to the way Charles Conwell would feel having delivered basically the finishing blow, it's just disturbing to even say, to Patrick Day, is a lot of these injuries, a lot of this wear and tear, it happens over time. Who knows what kind of damage Patrick Day had taken in training, what kind of damage he'd taken and accumulated over the course of his career. Perhaps it was Charles Conwell, but perhaps it was, the accumulation of the damage he had taken, and that was just, unfortunately, the last bit of punishment that Patrick Day could take. He was also, obviously, a warrior. Patrick Day was definitely hurt in that fight. He was dropped twice, and he decided to soldier on and fight on, and my goodness, that shows you the incredible tenacity and heart of some of these fighters, too tough for their own good. It's part of the reason I'm always on this channel ranting and raving against the boxing culture that, loves to pit these outmatched guys against these high-level guys. It's so pathetic watching the disparity in these fights. Not to say that the Patrick Day fight was, a great fighter against a tomato can. Not by any means. I think Patrick Day was an accomplished fighter, as is Charles Conwell. But, these are the kind of outcomes and the kind of things that happen that make me definitely want to look out for the fight game, the fight culture, and call out the combat sports establishment, the boxing establishment, if you will, that pits extremely experienced people against unexperienced people, puts lives in danger. Instead of making even fights, instead of appreciating guys with losses on their records, and not shunning them for having a loss, for a couple losses on their record. It's just an unfortunate culture that, only we can change as boxing fans and people involved in the sport and fight fans, So that's all I wanted to kind of say about that one. Vladimir Kraft is saying it's very sad, a risk that all fighters, especially boxers, have. And I agree with Vladimir on that. It's a risk that every fighter takes when they step into the ring or the cage or whatever it is, that, there's a risk there that your life could end, especially when you're taking blows to the head. And I think with boxing, because they're taking such a high concentration of blows to the head, more so I think than in any other combat sport, those are the guys we especially need to worry about. It's over and over and over again in a boxing match. You're getting punched to the head, punch to the head, punch to the head. And fighters also do have the option to punch to the body, obviously, in a boxing match. But not many guys go to the body that much. Most people opt to go for the head. And when that happens, you take a whole lot of punishment to the head. It's not like MMA, where you can take the guy down and grapple with him and kick him to the leg and kick him to the arm and kick him to the body and, or wrestle him. And it's not like kickboxing where you also have those options of kicking people to the legs, or it's not like Muay Thai where you can grapple somebody. This is a sport where the only two spots that you can hit somebody is on the head or to the body. And typically they're going to the body to free up the head. Once in a while a guy will attack the body, but that's a real specialist that goes to the body. Most people go to the head. And, when you're talking about several years of a boxing career being punched in your head, you get this horrific situation like we had with Patrick Day. An accumulation over the course of 12 rounds of punches to the head cannot be good. Cannot be good. So, definitely agree with Vladimir Kraft. I think boxers have it the worst in this situation as far as the accumulation of punishment to the head and to the brain. Ginger Giant, thank you so much for joining the chat again, brother. I really appreciate you very much. He wrote, "Bro, I literally feel physically ill since I heard this. I need a break from combat sports, I think. Shit like this sticks with me and affects me." Man, I agree, and it's because Ginger, guys like us, man, we love this thing. We love this thing, man. Shit, I welled up when I heard about this, man. I'm not even gonna lie. Like, I'm not even the crying type, it's a weakness, if I'm being honest with you, where I grew up and in the culture I grew up in to cry. It's weakness. But when you hear about something like this related to a sport that you love, somebody who definitely doesn't deserve it, somebody who deserves praise, somebody who deserves all the best, just 27 years old, his life's cut short, man. I mean, there's so many different tragic angles to this situation with Patrick Day. It makes you want to vomit, and it's so horrible. But I mean, what can we do? This is the reality of combat sport, especially boxing, and I hope it never happens again. But it keeps happening. 4 times this year, man. I don't remember it even happening that often, much less 4 times in 1 year. It's terrifying. It's terrifying. Vladimir Kraft is saying, I agree, it's accumulation, not the last strike, not the last opponent to blame, just unfortunate. I agree, and you can't blame the opponent either. I mean, it's the fighter himself that got in there to fight. Perhaps the referee or the coaches could have stopped it earlier. I mean, you could blame anything if you really want to, but at the end of the day, we just got to look at it for what it was, an unfortunate accident, a very unfortunate accident. Marco Martinez, I heard the reason MMA has less deaths is because fights end quicker. In MMA, when a fighter gets knocked down, the opponent moves in for the kill. In boxing, they get 10 seconds. Well, that's part of it. That's definitely part of it. But I think, Marco, it's the accumulation of punches over the course of 12 rounds. Let's not forget, MMA is 5 rounds in a championship fight, only 3 rounds in a regular match, even though it's 5 minutes. But boxing is 12 3-minute rounds where people are taking a sustained, concentrated barrage of punches to the head. And there's no other sport that has that. MMA, it's hard to deliver the same punishment in MMA on average as it is in boxing. I mean, because there are so many ways to win a fight in MMA. Jiu-jitsu, wrestling, ground and pound, leg kicks, kicks to the body, stuff like that. Whereas in boxing, I mean, you take shots over and over to the head, and it's crazy. It's crazy. Vladimir Kraft saying, yes, the rules also allow fighter to recover after knockdown and receive more damage in the fight. MMA rules much better in that regard. If someone in trouble, the fight stops immediately. And that's true. MMA fights do get stopped pretty fast when somebody's in trouble. There's so many ways to lose in MMA, and there's just not that many ways to lose in boxing. And so I think that definitely leads to a lot more damage being taken in boxing. Knuckleheads, we can continue to talk about this throughout the chat. Of course, we can talk about whatever you guys want. But at this time, I'd like to shift gears to another pretty crazy bit of news in the form of Artis Mack. Now, this is Claressa Shields' brother. And for a while, we didn't know what had happened with Ivana Habazan's trainer. As we all know, Claressa Shields was supposed to fight Ivana Habazan a couple Saturdays ago, but the fight was canceled because Ivana Habazan's coach was attacked brutally at the weigh-in. And apparently there was some back and forth between Habazan and Claressa Shields' sister. Claressa Shields' trainer was attacked. He was punched in the head really hard. He's, I guess he's 68 years old. I mean, close to 70 years old. He was bleeding. He fell to the floor and cracked his, fractured his skull or whatever it was. My understanding is he was released from the hospital. Then he had to go back in. But, I mean, throughout this time, we haven't known who the culprit was, who the assailant was. And it looks like we found out today, as it looks like the authorities in Michigan, in Flint, Michigan, have charged Artis Mack, which is Claressa Shields' brother. Now, obviously, Claressa Shields, we're not going to throw her under the bus because she cannot control the actions of her brother, and she has constantly and vehemently denied, any participation or support for this kind of action, which I appreciate and I think is very mature on her part. But it was Claressa Shields' brother is what it's looking like. He's the one that's been charged. So it looks like it was him. And get this, knuckleheads. He was charged with assault with intent to do great bodily harm, less than murder. And, that's crazy. It's also known as assault GBH for short. So the GBH is the acronym for great bodily harm. But he was charged, again, with assault with intent to do great bodily harm, less than murder. And, being the dorky lawyer that I am, knuckleheads, it's part of the reason I'm the fighter's rep. It's not just reputation. It's representative. But, being the dorky lawyer that I am, I looked up the statute. I kind of looked through it. And I've actually linked the statute to the bottom of the description for you guys if you guys are interested in reading about it at all. It's basically MCL 750.84, and that's the Michigan statute. And what it says is pretty much the prosecution has to prove beyond a reasonable doubt, as they do in all criminal cases, that you tried to physically injure another person, you had or believed you had the ability to cause the injury, and you intended to cause great bodily harm. Actual injury is not necessary, but if there is an injury, it may be considered evidence in deciding whether the defendant intended to cause the great bodily harm. And great bodily harm apparently means any sort of physical injury that could seriously harm the health or function of the body or the person's body. So, this is a serious crime that Artis Mack is being charged with, and it is a felony. And get this, it's punishable by imprisonment for not more than 10 years or a fine of not more than $5,000 or both. Now, what that means is the ceiling for the crime is 10 years. So that's the most he can be charged. However, if he's a habitual offender, if he's done stuff like this before, he can actually get up to life in prison, is my understanding. And there's an alternate charge known as aggravated assault. Now, typically, they don't always convict people, obviously, of what they charge them with. Sometimes they go with the lesser charge, or sometimes they plead them down, or whatever it is. But the alternate charge is aggravated assault, and the difference is, it looks like, at least in Michigan, the difference is that when it's a domestic situation, typically they'll go with what they're charging Artis Mack with, which is the assault GBH, the one with great bodily harm less than murder. So, that one is a bit more severe. And a lot of the times, they'll charge people with that one, the more severe one, the one they're charging Artis Mack with, because it's a domestic situation, or perhaps they have an extensive criminal history. And, something's telling me that if he's acting like this at a weigh-in, and if they've charged this particular assault GBH as opposed to the aggravated assault, then perhaps he has a criminal history already. I mean, you don't just go around punching 70-year-olds because they're talking shit. They're 70. They're supposed to talk shit, But, it's looking to me, based on the charge, either, they're charging high, which is what they typically do when they plead down, or they're trying to nail this guy because he's got a prior history, and because, the situation, if we're being quite frank, was pretty extreme, and they're going to look at things, excuse me, like the injury that was caused, I think the judge will probably take into consideration the age of James Ali Bashir and the entire situation, how basically, this person, Artis Mack, allowed for someone to get him so riled up from trash talk at a boxing promotion where people are supposed to talk trash that he hit him so hard. I mean, he nearly killed him. He nearly killed him. And the huge issue with this is the fact that if he does have any prior history, I mean, he could easily be, I mean, really aggravating his sentence, And then the other thing I wanted to point out was, so it looks like there's already an attorney on the job. And the attorney is basically saying that there's video on the matter. His comment was like, there's video on the matter that shows that there was some, provocative talk that gives context to the situation. So the attorney's trying to like mitigate it by saying, there was this trash talk that, may give us context into what actually happened in this situation. Definitely a slick attorney move. Doing his job as an attorney, not that I agree with it, but doing his job as an attorney by basically trying to soften the blow and basically infer that there was a situation that happened that kind of caused his client, Artis Mack, to go and punch this, basically the 70-year-old in the face, borderline 70-year-old in the face. And it's just crazy, man. It's crazy. But, I do think in this day and age, because our society is so fucked up, that people will point the finger at Claressa Shields. But, she's over and over again said that, she doesn't stand for this kind of thing. And, I can't blame her. I mean, you can't blame someone for the actions of someone else. I think that would be immature. But I do think this may affect her career, unfortunately. I hope it doesn't, but I do think this may affect her career. And it's definitely going to affect Artis Mack's career. Because, I don't think he's going to get away with something like that without at least, I mean, man, if I were the judge in this situation, I'll be honest with you guys, and I'm a pretty understanding guy. If I were the judge in this situation and I see a young man punching a near 70-year-old man for talking shit at a boxing promotion and nearly killing him, if I'm the judge in that situation, I mean, I'm not going to be very nice at all. And if you have a prior history, I might come for your ass. I might really come for your ass. So, that's my opinion. I don't know what kind of judge he's going to get. I mean, a lot of times depending on the judge that you have. I mean, I have a ton of courtroom experience, you guys, and depending on the judge that you have, you can really get a totally different outcome. But I think in a situation like this, man, somebody's got to pay for that, and this dude's going to pay for that. So tell me what you guys think about that. I'd love to know. So Vladimir Kraft said, yes, the rules also allow a fighter to recover after knockdown and receive more damage in the fight. MMA rules much better in that regard. If someone is in trouble, the fight stops immediately, pretty much. Ginger Giant, what's scary is the fact that this can happen to any level of fighter. The guy that George Groves fought was the last person to defeat Triple G, and he was left ruined for life. Gut-necked. Oh, man, that's another terrible situation, man. I can't believe how many horrible situations we've had like that. And you guys, just so you know, I'm pretty sure I transferred it to this YouTube channel, which is the only YouTube channel that I work on at this point. But I had an interview with Magomed Abdusalamov. If you guys remember, I think it was Mike Perez that he fought, and the winner was supposed to fight Klitschko at Madison Square Garden. And man, I became pretty close with Magomed Abdusalamov. Man, I felt really bad for him after what happened. Man, I mean, we even went to Starbucks together down in Sunny Isles and stuff. And when I was living in South Florida, very cool guy. Very nice guy, man. I really liked the guy. And, he got severely hurt, suffered brain injuries. Luckily, they were able to save him, but I mean, he's definitely never going to be the same. Same situation, man. It's terrifying. Vladimir Kraft is saying, wow, that's crazy news. Obviously talking about the Claressa Shields situation. Marco Martinez saying, Artis is a fool. Cost his sister money. Fight had to be canceled. Yes, it did. And it's just so stupid that anybody would do something like that. I mean, why on earth wouldn't you just allow your sister to, get her get back in the ring? Let your sister he's an old dude, just let him talk, let him say what he wants to say, I mean, I got some kooks in my family that, they're over 70 years old. Shit, they don't even have to be over 70 years old and they're saying crazy stuff, Doesn't mean you got to punch them in the face, especially in a situation like a boxing event where, it's sanctioned, and that nerves are high and emotions are running high and people are going to be on edge and stuff like that. But, you also deep down need to understand, hey, this is a boxing promotion. If someone talks crap, it doesn't mean I have to try to kill them or try to punch them in the face. It's a boxing promotion. So I don't know, knuckleheads. That's just crazy to me, man. That doesn't sound like a normal person. That sounds like a real sociopath, somebody that would do something like that to a 70-year-old guy. Definitely doesn't have a conscience. Maybe the guy's a narcissist or something. I don't know. That's just not normal. That's just not normal. I mean, if someone's talking shit to you and they're your age, are you just going to walk up to them and knock them out? I mean, it's crazy. It's crazy. Of course, I mean, it depends what people are saying to you, but I mean, you shouldn't react like that, at least not in this society, because you're going to get what's coming to you. Vladimir Kraft should be in prison. I don't understand how someone can hit, especially with that force, a 70-year-old man. Looks like an attempt to kill. And, they're charging him with assault, with great bodily harm, with intent to commit great bodily harm. Life in prison is not off the table here, Vladimir. I mean, if this guy has a history, has a criminal history, and it's extensive enough, it looks like, from what I've researched, that life in prison is not off the table. All to, get a shot off on a 70-year-old. I mean, what are you thinking? I mean, how much of a sociopath do you have to be? I mean, Jesus, like the guys, tell the guy to shut up, cuss the guy out, I don't know, throw a paper ball at the guy, throw a towel at him, but you're going to knock him out? I mean, and it was a sucker punch, is my understanding. I mean, this wasn't like they put up their dukes and they were fighting. This was a sucker punch. He sucker punched a 70-year-old trainer from the Kronk gym, a guy who used to train Vladimir Klitschko. Almost 70 years old, 68 years old. I mean, crazy. This is insane, man. I mean, if something happened, I'll be honest with you guys, if at my promotions, at Fighters Rep Promotions, and if it was my weigh-in and somebody did that, man, I'm going to every hearing. I'm pressing charges. You're never going to be allowed to do that again. You're never going to put your hand on an older person again. Never. I'm going to make sure. I'm going to make sure you never put one finger on an elder ever again in your life. That just doesn't happen. That doesn't fly with me. So, I don't know, to each their own. But in my world, where I come from, you don't do that. And shit. There are cultures where you do something like that, you end up in a dumpster. I don't know what this guy's thinking. This guy's crazy. Definitely not normal. I don't like the way she responded, to be honest, says Ginger Giant. Dude is 70. He sucker punched him, causing life-changing injuries. Anything other than outright condemnation isn't good enough. She's done. I wasn't sure how she responded It was kind of confusing to me, but all I read was, I think I saw an Instagram video that was very brief, and I took it off because it was stupid. But I did see that she was saying she doesn't stand for this kind of thing. So I mean, at least she didn't approve of it, or hopefully she didn't order it. I don't think she did. Vladimir Kraft, how she responded. Ginger Giant, she didn't condone the actions, but she literally said he's satisfied type of shit, which is retarded given the outcome. She literally said he started. Oh, so she said that he started it. Well, sure, I mean, it doesn't matter who started it, It doesn't matter who started it when someone's talking trash and the other person knocks them unconscious and nearly kills them, and they're 70 and the victim is 70 years old. I mean, it doesn't matter. Again, I mean, I feel like what's being missed here, and I don't know, maybe I'm crazy, maybe I'm the crazy one, is that the guy's 70 years old. That's the first problem. So let's break it down here. The guy's 70, okay? We're at a boxing weigh-in. They're talking shit at a boxing weigh-in, okay? So, I mean, talking shit is one thing, but when the person is 70 and it's happening at a weigh-in between camps that are about to fight each other, I don't see anything out of the ordinary about it, I do think he definitely crossed the line with regards to this girl's sexual orientation or gender identity or whatever it was that he was talking about. I mean, he was talking a lot of smack to who I believe was Claressa Shields' sister, who I believe I read online was a lesbian, and he was saying, like, I'm going to treat you like a man, stop acting like a man, and this and that. And yes, that's highly offensive. But, like, not enough for your brother to, sucker punch a 70-year-old man and nearly kill him. People don't deserve to lose their lives for saying something, even if it's something bad, They really don't. I don't think they deserve to lose their lives for it. You know what I mean, guys? I don't know. Maybe I'm crazy. One huge positive. Let me see. Actually, Ginger Giant. Oh, and then Vladimir Kraft says, I think she just feels to be loyal to her brother to protect him. Even if she says it, I think she understands her brother is guilty. Well, obviously, I mean, she understands her brother is guilty, and of course, she's going to be loyal to her brother and probably support her brother. But at the end of the day, does it matter who started, guys? I mean, do you guys care about who started? It's a 70-year-old. I mean, 70-year-olds just say what. I mean, the guy's 60. Okay, 68. I mean, they say some crazy shit sometimes, man. Sometimes they tell you how they feel. What are you gonna sock them for it? My grandpa was 70. I wasn't gonna, and he said something I didn't like. I wasn't gonna knock him out. I mean, I don't know how you defend that. I just don't know how you defend that. I don't. And there are a lot of people online that are defending it. Believe it or not, a lot of people, even on the video that I made, people were saying, "Oh, he deserved it. He got what was coming to him." And I just don't see. I don't think that they would be saying the same thing if it was their grandmother or grandfather that got knocked out like that and sent to the hospital and nearly killed. And the guy was bleeding on the brain. I mean, who knows what kind of damage was done to this person? Bleeding on the brain. When I saw that, I was like, oh man, this guy could die at any minute. He's 70. How's his body gonna heal a brain bleed from a knockout punch? It's crazy. Marco Martinez, one huge positive is that fighters rep. Most fighters are pretty cordial. I don't think I've seen any fighters or any camp causing trouble outside the fight. For the most part, you're right, Marco. We have been blessed to have some pretty cordial fighters. They don't get out of hand. We do have security at every event. But, man, this makes you think, do you beef up security at the weigh-ins? I mean, this is crazy. I definitely never want anything like this to happen. But, people need to understand they'll be banned for life. I mean, they'll be banned for life from any promotion if they did something like that. It's insane. Ginger Giant, I don't care for women boxing anyway, to be honest. Being Irish, I'm proud of Katie Taylor's achievements, but women's boxing ain't for me. Ginger Giant, that's interesting. I mean, to be honest, Ginger Giant, I'm not into women's boxing for a different reason. Or I don't know what reason you're not into women's boxing, but my reason I'm not into women's boxing is because it just hasn't been marketed. Like, I love women's MMA. I think it's just as exciting, if not more so sometimes, than men's MMA. But, that's because women's MMA is marketed, and there was Ronda Rousey, and the UFC just did it right. They're always investing in their product and in the sport. Whereas women's boxing, I mean, I know Laila Ali, I know Claressa Shields, and I know Ivana Habazin. It's just nobody has ever taken the time or put in the effort to get these women out there. And I think if they did, it'd be a lot more interesting. But because they don't, it's not. It's not. You can't just put them on the TV and make them fight each other, I think. You got to give the backstory. You got to do the thing like the UFC does with the embedded. You got to do the 24/7 lead up to the fights. You got to get people emotionally involved in these fighters, especially in the female fighters, because boxing, especially women's boxing, should be a lot more advanced than women's MMA, considering the sport's been around so much longer. But for whatever reason, it's just not. It just has not been developed. And I don't know why that is. I really don't know why that is. If you guys like what you're hearing, if you guys like what you're seeing, subscribe, like, share, comment. Definitely hit that money sign down there in the super chat. Donate some love to Fighters Rep Promotions. Also, in the links in the description, you can get your Fighters Rep tees. We got some other stuff there. I think we've got hoodies there too. All the proceeds, or the majority of the proceeds, will go to Fighters Rep Promotions and building up these young fighters. Also, I have an Amazon affiliate link down there. If you guys click it, it'll take you to some hand wraps. But even if you don't buy those hand wraps, if you buy anything from Amazon after clicking that, we'll get like a reward and some credit. So I'd greatly appreciate that. Everybody's going to buy off Amazon for the holidays anyway. So appreciate it, man. Let's see what else we got here. Spider-Man is saying, play the video of what happened. Spider-Man, nobody has video of what happened. They only have video of the shit talking that was happening beforehand. And basically, Habazin or James Ali Bashir being tended to afterwards after being knocked out. That's what they have. So there's like no actual video of the knockout punch, is my understanding. So I mean, and I don't really have the capacity to play the video either. I probably could, but I'm not prepared right now to do that. But, definitely something I'll think about doing in the future. Marco Martinez, talk shit, get smacked. That's the knee-jerk reaction for me. Just because you're old doesn't let you get away with saying whatever you want. That said, the adult in me says they were at a fight. They were at an event where you are paid to settle disputes. Why are you fighting outside the ring? Yeah, I agree, talk shit, get smacked. But, dude, he's 70. I mean, come on. If I was going to smack everybody that talks shit to me, I'd be in prison over and over again. Ginger Giant, because the minute a woman dies in boxing, watch how the media responds. Shit is done. Mark my words. Well, maybe not. Maybe not, Ginger. We've got 4 guys die this year, man. That's serious. That's serious, and a lot of people have responded by calling for a ban for boxing. Some people are saying we need to ban the sport altogether. Some people are saying we need to, cut the round short. Some people are saying we need to implement headgear. All kinds of things that would, really take away from the experience, but could provide a bit of a safety measure for these fighters. They definitely don't deserve to be dying in there. I mean, man, I think about Patrick Day fighting, at the age of 27 with a career spanning almost 100 fights, 80 amateur fights. I mean, this guy's been doing it since he was a kid. And to go through all that and all that work and hard and sacrifice and be a number one in the U.S. at 152 pounds and being Errol Spence's Olympic alternate and, winning the Golden Gloves and then to die in the ring. I mean, it cannot be more tragic than that, man. It cannot be more tragic than that. So, I mean, while I'm worried about, what kind of rules can be implemented to negate deaths in boxing because I worry about it compromising the sport, I do think something needs to be done in a way that won't compromise the sport. And, there's always a way, man. There's always a way. Maybe there's some sort of glove that they could come up with, some sort of material for the gloves and the canvases that would maybe lighten the blows when the guys fall down and hit the back of their head on the ring, or maybe a glove that kind of, I don't know, maybe it's some sort of headgear, maybe they cut the rounds down again. I don't know, man. It's crazy. Vladimir Kraft, I'm also not into women boxing, but some MMA women fighters are fun to watch. RR, JJ, Valentina Shevchenko are my favorite ones. Dude, Valentina Shevchenko, that is a human piece of art, man. I love watching Valentina Shevchenko. There's something just graceful and beautiful and amazing about Valentina Shevchenko. And after she whips someone's ass, when she does that like Kyrgyz, folk dance, that thing they kind of do in the Kavkaz, where they, that step dance that they do, and she spins and she like throws her hands down. I mean, it's such like a strong, sexy thing that she does, man. I just don't know. I admire the shit out of Valentina Shevchenko, man, and she's just a beast. She's fast. She's technical. She's strong. She's knocked people out. She speaks I don't know how many languages. She's a sexy beast, man. She's a sexy beast. She's special. So yeah, I'm with you on Valentina Shevchenko. Ronda Rousey was cool. Joanna Jędrzejczyk is cool. But Valentina Shevchenko is my favorite female fighter at this point, I think. Ginger Giant. Watching women fight is fucked up. I'm old school, I know, but it just doesn't sit right with me. Well, I mean, you're entitled to your opinion, And just so you guys know, when you guys give an opinion on here, I'm never going to kick you out. I'm never going to shit on you. I'm never going to, I might make fun of you a little bit because it's fun. I bust your balls a little bit, but I'm never going to kick somebody out of here. It doesn't matter. I can't even think of what somebody would have to say to get kicked out of here. I was in a boxing forum recently, and I got kicked out because I disagreed with the host, who was saying that all the heavyweights are cherry pickers, but Deontay Wilder's not a cherry picker, and he'll beat anybody. And I told him, well, I mean, they're all cherry pickers, but Deontay Wilder, I mean, who the hell did he fight for the first 38 or 39 fights of his professional career? It's a bunch of bums. So, I mean, what are you talking about? I told him, who were those guys that he fought before that? They weren't cherries, and I got kicked out for saying that. I mean, I couldn't believe it. And then, I really wasn't surprised. I saw the host kicking people out for, any sort of disagreement. I mean, it was the most childish immature bullshit I've ever seen, and it's amazing to me how sociopathic people get, once they develop like an audience and start bringing in a little bit of money with their business and find a little success. It's crazy to me. My goal is for this channel to be a forum on combat sports, and for you guys to be able to say whatever you want, even if it's offensive, even if it's crazy to some people. I'm not going to sit here and police everybody in the chat room. Say what the hell you want, and people have different opinions. I mean, I'm not going to force my shit on everybody else. First off, I don't care to change anybody's mind. I care to discuss this stuff, maybe have some debates, have a little fun. But to sit here and kick people out, and oh man, you guys should see some of these forums. They've got guys on there that think they're like mafia henchmen, and they're telling them, kick him out. And the guys put like little kill shot emojis. Oh, I got him. Oh my God, bro. These people are such dorks. And these people definitely got beat up all the time in elementary school, middle school, high school. Like yeah, you'd like end up in a dumpster in Miami acting like that for sure. But anyway, these guys are different. So, and I'm always gonna let you guys say whatever you want. So if you're old school, whatever, you don't like women's fighting, hey, that's your opinion. I like women's fighting. But if you don't like it, that's your opinion. I'm cool with it, man. I totally understand. I got family members that don't like fighting. Period. They think it's fucking barbaric. They think people shouldn't be allowed to fight each other. And now with this situation with Patrick Day, which is one of the most horrible things I've ever fucking heard of in my life, this situation with Patrick Day. But with this situation with Patrick Day now, like, there's people coming out of the woodwork on social media, everywhere, saying, we should just ban boxing, man. It's human cockfighting. And obviously I disagree with that, but I mean, you can understand, when emotions are running high or when people don't really understand what the sport is about. You can understand why they would say something like that. So, Ginger Giant, let's see what else you had to say. The only enjoyment I ever got was watching Holly Holm KO Ronda because of how Ronda was so disrespectful towards her. Oh, man, that was a badass KO, bro. And let me tell you something. My sister-in-law came over to watch that fight because she was loving Ronda so much. And that's one of the things that I really appreciate about women's fighting is because it got other women on board, you want to feel like you're represented. So I like that they pushed women's MMA and got these female fans on board who otherwise would not have watched. I mean, I know my sister-in-law, she would only watch the fight if it was on and she was sitting in the living room. Prior to Ronda Rousey, Ronda Rousey got her into the sport, so I appreciated Ronda Rousey and women's MMA, and I remember sitting here and telling her, I don't know, this Holly Holm chick, man, I was literally predicting Holly Holm to either beat Ronda Rousey or give her a hell of a fight. I think I predicted her to win, and my sister-in-law was like, you're crazy, Ronda Rousey is the Mike Tyson of women, and it happened, man. I couldn't believe it. And that shit was hilarious. My sister-in-law was falling apart, man. It was a trip. So yeah, I thought that was an incredible fight, Ginger. I really enjoyed that fight. Marco Martinez, women's MMA is where it's at. They got two dominant champs. And the 115-pound division is probably the hottest division in the sport outside men's lightweight. Marco's also saying Macy Barber's coming for Valentina. She's got a big fight Friday. It's so fun watching the 125 develop. Marco, man, you're the freaking man when it comes to MMA and women's MMA especially. Just so you guys know, I think I'm going to have Marco Martinez start talking MMA on Tuesday nights at 9. Maybe also Sundays. The days that I'm not on, you might get Marco and Ivan. Ivan Calderon and Marco Martinez, two guys who work with us here at Fighters Rep. They're part of the team, and blessed to have them. Really cool guys. They will not kick you out the chat unless I tell them to, or unless you're insulting like their mothers or them personally or something. But But yeah, yeah, you know a lot about women's MMA, so I'm going to have you doing this pretty soon, Marco. Vladimir Kraft is saying he didn't have an argument or guts to admit that he was wrong at something that he said. Vladimir, I'm not really sure what you're talking about there. Ginger Giant. The Vladimir, you're talking about the chat room I was kicked out of. Yeah, man, it's like he's trying to make the argument that Triple G and all these guys are fighting tomato cans and, whatever. And then he's saying that Wilder, and, obviously he made it a race thing. I mean, that's what these guys on these channels do. I mean, whatever race they are, that's who they favor, which is just, it's 2019. It's not, and we're not in the prison yard, guys. Okay? It's 2019, and we're not in the prison yard. We don't have to click by race. Okay? We can hang out and talk about combat sports. I got more in common with anybody in this room, than I do with a lot of people in my own race. So, I don't know. That's beyond me. But he was basically saying Deontay Wilder will fight anyone and beat anyone, and the rest of the guys are fighting tomato cans, and Wilder's like the only brave one. Bro, who the fuck did Wilder fight before Luis Ortiz and Tyson Fury? And Luis Ortiz is old as shit, and Tyson Fury was coming off of a 2-year, biggest loser, weight loss extravaganza, probably fueled by cocaine and I don't know what else. The guy was a mess, trying to kill himself. And this host was trying to convince human beings that live in objective reality that Wilder is special. He's not fighting tomato cans, but the rest of these guys are. Come on, dude. Listen, Deontay Wilder's a badass, and everybody needs to get behind him. He's our American heavyweight champ. So if you're here in the States, you should definitely support him. At least that's my opinion. You don't have to. You can do whatever you want. And he's a supreme knockout artist, and the guy's a beast. But his boxing's not that good. And, and he's fought a bunch of tomato cans, man. The first 38, 39 fights were garbage, man. These dudes were trash. So, Bermain Stavern gave him a fight, took him 12 rounds. And then in the following fight, he knocked him out so fast. It just proved to you that, even Stavern. Who'd Stavern beat? Who did Stavern beat? Did any of you guys know who Stavern was before he fought Deontay Wilder? You did not. You guys did not know who Stavern was. And so I don't see how a guy like Deontay Wilder, who, we've never heard of the majority of his opponents, the great majority of his opponents, is fighting less tomato cans than Triple G, who, at least he fought Canelo, Matthew Macklin. He fought some guys. Triple G's fought some guys now, Danny Jacobs. Like, who's Deontay Wilder fought? Tyson Fury coming off of a fucking drug binge? Tyson Fury coming out of the fucking gutter? Where are these people? What reality are these people living in? I don't understand it. And, those kind of people that live in that reality will watch this and say, well, you don't like Deontay Wilder. I love Deontay. Deontay Wilder is my favorite heavyweight. Deontay Wilder, him and Dillian White are my favorite heavyweights. I got him tied with Dillian White. I want to see them fight each other. I used to really like Tyson Fury too, but he's getting weird with the WWE thing, and he's starting to fight, guys that don't deserve to be in there with him. But I don't know. I like Deontay Wilder. I think he talks a big game and he's fun to watch. And I like Dillian White. He talks a big game and he's fun to watch. But that doesn't mean that I'm going to ignore the fact that he's fighting fucking nobodies. I'm not going to ignore the fact that you're fighting fucking nobodies. So, There it is, you know. People might not like it, but I tell it like it fucking is, bitches. Vladimir Kraft. Thank you for that. Ginger Giant. Chat rooms on the internet are full of edgy dorks trying to get one over on people the only way they can. Yep. And it's incredible, you know. They developed this crazy following. I mean, if you would have seen his minions in there, just like kicking people out for the stupidest shit, man. Just for disagreeing. It was the most childish shit I ever seen in my life. And, but, you know, I wished him, you know, you got to wish people the best. I don't wish anybody any ill will. You know, I wish them the best. If you're going to report or discuss boxing and you're not going to be objective, if you're going to report or discuss anything and you're not going to be objective, you're going to have what we have now in the mainstream media where nobody believes a fucking word that they have to say. You know? So that's how I feel about that. Vladimir Kraft, I think Ronda was more playing a character when being herself, or then being herself when she was in UFC. Yeah, you know, maybe she was playing a character, Vladimir, but I think that confidence started to get to her, man. She started to believe, at least from my point of view, she started to believe that I am the Tyson of the women's division. I can knock all these fucking people out. I don't need to take them down anymore and use my judo. And that was her mistake. That was her mistake with Amanda Nunes, her mistake with Holly Holm, and, you know, she wanted to stand and bang with people that could bang. You know, Holly Holm was a professional, like, boxer, and then started with the kickboxing, and then Amanda Nunes. I mean, look, I'm from South Florida. I've heard things about Amanda Nunes where she trains down in Coconut Creek in American Top Team. And I never heard anything bad about Amanda Nunes' striking. The only thing I heard was she fights like a dude, is what I heard. She's fucking dudes up. That's what I heard. So, you know, for you to go in there and try to bang it out with Amanda Nunes and Holly Holm, I mean, you've kind of lost the plot, as the people over in the UK would say. You fucking nuts, dude. So yeah, the Ginger Giant Buster Douglas moment. Buster Douglas moment. Not sure what you're talking about there, Ginger Giant. Are you talking about when Deontay fought Romain Stavern? Not sure there. Marco Martinez, he beat Areola, but you're right, he was unknown. When Deontay Wilder, or rather, Romain Stavern beat Areola, yes. But if you watch their fight, I believe they might have fought twice. And mind you, Areola never won a title. Ever. Unfortunately, Chris Areola was one of those guys that just never lived up to his potential. And I used to love watching Chris Areola, you know, especially since he's down here in SoCal, training down here, and he's a warrior. But he never lived up to his potential. He didn't take the sport seriously, and he'd tell you that himself based on the interviews that I've seen. So in his fight with Stavern, I believe it was the second one, he was winning that fight. He was winning that fight, and he got caught. And that happens with heavyweights. I mean, these guys can knock each other out with one punch. That being said, Stavern still beat him. But who'd he beat? He beat a guy, Chris Areola, who never won a title, who never lived up to his potential. And so if you're saying that Stavern beating Areola makes Stavern a great heavyweight, or even a really good heavyweight, I don't know. I don't know about that. And I think Areola was probably on his way out already at that time. So yeah, the best Areola was the one that I believe he fought Vitaly Klitschko. He lost that fight. And he just never looked the same after that fight. So, you know, unfortunately, Areola never lived up to his potential. Romain Stavern got crushed the second time he fought Deontay Wilder. But, you know, Deontay Wilder's a beast. Don't get me wrong, he's a beast. But to say that he hasn't fought any tomato cans is the most delirious, hallucinogenic. I mean, these people are having a mass fucking hallucination in these chat rooms. I don't know if there's some kind of opioids being released from their phones when they're doing these chats. I don't know what they're smoking, you know. That's some wacky tobacco, because that dude fought a bunch of nobodies. That guy was like Gary. It was like Gary Russell, you know. He fought a bunch of nobodies. Now, when he fought somebody, didn't look so great, you know. Didn't look so great. Lomachenko for Gary Russell. For Deontay Wilder, it was the Tyson Fury that was coming off 2 years retired or more. Drugs, lost 100 pounds, I don't know what. Trying to commit suicide. And boxed his ears off. Bro, Tyson Fury boxed his ears off. And, you know, people will say, oh, the referee counted slow. Wilder should have been awarded a knockout. No, that's not the way it works. That's not the way it works. It doesn't go by seconds. It goes by the referee's seconds. It goes by the referee deciding whether to continue with the count or stop the fight. And maybe the referee saw something that made him decide to continue the count. You know? I deal with the best referee in the game at the Fighters Rep shows. Dan Bam Bam Stell. I think the guy's the best referee in the game. He recently refereed he refereed one of the last Beterbiev fights, who is fighting on Friday. So we're gonna do our prediction tomorrow, you guys, at 9 p.m. That's gonna be the most incredible fight. Beterbiev versus Gvadzik. I think that's the most incredible fight. But with regards to refereeing, I mean, I talk to guys like Dan Bam Bam Stell, who referees all my shows. And, you know, I think he'll tell you. You know, it's up to the referee whether he's going to continue that count. It's up to the referee how fast or how slow he counts. Obviously, he can't purposely do a slow count. But, I mean, when you compare it to the timer or whatever, it was pretty reasonable. And do I think Tyson Fury got lucky that he got up from that? Absolutely, he got lucky. I think most people would have been stretchered out of that ring. But Tyson Fury boxed Deontay Wilder's fucking ears off. And it wasn't close. It wasn't close. I could not give Deontay Wilder a single round other than the rounds where he knocked down Tyson Fury or nearly knocked him out. I mean, I couldn't give him one clear round. Maybe there were some that were close, that maybe somebody could argue for Wilder. But as far as a boxing match, he got outclassed the entire time. And if that were not the case, I would say it's not the case. You know, Deontay Wilder outclassed Bermane Stiverne. And then in the second fight, knocked him out. But in the first fight, he outclassed him. You know, Deontay Wilder did not outclass Artur Szpilka, but knocked him out. Deontay Wilder absolutely did not outclass Tyson Fury. Almost knocked him out, but didn't. And got a very fortunate decision. If they rematched, would Tyson Fury outbox him again? Yes. Could Deontay Wilder knock his ass out? Yes. Deontay Wilder can knock out anybody. But, you know, we got to be realistic here. We got to be objective. You know, we can't... Listen, you can't lie to the people, man. If the sun's out, there's a saying. If the sun's out, and it's in a different language, so I'll try to put it in English. But if the sun's out and you put your hand up to block the sun, that doesn't mean everybody else is not going to see it. Sun's still up there, people are still seeing it. So, you know, you can't lie to everybody, especially in boxing. People get sick of it. They've been lied to long enough. Vladimir Kraft, I agree. Ronda was wild with her strikes. She had KO power, but her striking defense was full of holes. Ginger Giant, Areola wouldn't win a British heavyweight title, in all honesty. That's true, man. That might be true. Vladimir Kraft, if I would be Ronda Rousey, I would ankle pick Amanda Nunes right after the bell, faster than Jorge Masvidal did his famous KO. Not a chance to exchange any strikes. I agree with that too. Knuckleheads, hey, I really appreciate you guys being on the chat today. I actually had to do it from a different location as I was evicted from the Fighters Rep dungeon. But Knuckleheads, it's much appreciated. Thank you so much for joining the chat. We're going to be doing this almost every day at 9 p.m. Tell your friends, tell your family, tell your kids, tell your wife. It's going down, 9 p.m. Pacific. We're going to be talking boxing. We're going to be talking MMA. And we'll even talk some kickboxing because we're a kickboxing promotion. Also, not sure if you guys saw that last Glory, which was amazing. Murat Grigorian looked amazing retaining his title. But anyway, it's time for your boy to hit the sack, or at least to get off this thing. Thank you guys so much for joining me. Much appreciated. If you didn't get to leave a comment or say anything during the live stream, feel free to leave one below. Subscribe, like, share. Thank you so much. We'll see you tomorrow at 9 p.m. for the prediction on what is going to be, remember I told you this, one of the most important and best fights you're ever going to watch in boxing for the light heavyweight division. Alexander Gvozdyk versus Artur Beterbiev. If you don't know them, look them up. See you guys.